Justice Scalia dedicated his life to the cornerstone of our democracy, the rule of law. Tonight, we honor his extraordinary service to our nation and remember one of the towering legal figures of our time.
President Barack Obama reacting to today's news that Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia has died. His body was found at a ranch in Texas after he did not show up for breakfast.
The president ordered that flags be flown at half-staff, including outside the Supreme Court, where Justice Scalia held court for 3 decades.
Scalia's death was also a topic at tonight's Republican presidential debate in South Carolina. A moment of silence was held at the very beginning of the debate before addressing the question of picking Scalia's replacement. The vacancy on the bench has many wondering what will happen next.
President Obama made clear that he will move forward with a nomination, and he called on lawmakers to act on his pick. Now, as the battle begins over naming the next justice, the High Court still has business before them. Nova Southeastern University President Charles Zeldin takes a look at what happens with the current cases.
There's a lot of controversial cases about dealing with abortion, about dealing with Obamacare, about dealing with immigration that are going to be coming for the court this term still. And we're looking at a 4-4 split, which means that the decision of the lower court will be what stands because they won't have a majority.
No surprise here, the Republican candidates for president said that President Obama should not nominate anyone to the court until his term is over. They also called for a delay in confirmation hearings if needed. Now, we turn to reporter Karen Kaifa, who is live in Washington, D.C.
Karen has more on what was said at the debate, as well as how the loss of Scalia will impact our political landscape. Karen.
Absolutely, Cheyenne and Carlos. The political discussion is already underway, but Washington is mourning Justice Scalia. The flags at the White House and elsewhere throughout the nation's capital have been lowered to half-staff to honor him. Of course, the news came as quite a surprise here in Washington, and it will likely be a hot topic of discussion this election year. Shocking and surprising news on Saturday. Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia dead at the age of 79 while on a hunting trip to Texas. He was said to have gone to bed Friday night not feeling well. He was found unresponsive Saturday afternoon. Traveling in California, President Obama offered his condolences.
For almost 30 years, Justice Antonin Nino Scalia was a larger-than-life president on the bench. A brilliant legal mind with an energetic style, incisive wit, and colorful opinions.
Appointed in 1986 by President Reagan, he was the first Italian-American to be seated on the High Court. He was a strong, vocal conservative voice throughout his term, a critic of Roe v. Wade, and a dissenting voice in last term's same-sex marriage cases. Most recently, he was criticized for his comments regarding affirmative action. With the tributes, questions about who will succeed Scalia and who will appoint that person. President Obama said he intends to make that nomination in due time. But hours after the news broke, the Republican presidential candidates took the debate stage in Greenville, South Carolina, hosted by CBS News, and expressed their opinions on how things should play out.
I think it's up to Mitch McConnell and everybody else to stop it. It's called delay, delay, delay.
There should be a consensus orientation on that nomination, and there's no doubt in my mind that Barack Obama will not have a consensus pick when he submits that person to the Senate.
There is certainly a spirited and contentious political battle over that successor ahead here in Washington. Meanwhile, Scalia is survived by his wife, Maureen, 9 children, and 28 grandchildren. Carlos and Cheyenne, back to you.
All right, Karen. Well, have you heard anything from Scalia's fellow justices this evening?
Well, the death was actually pretty much confirmed by the court by Chief Justice John Roberts in a statement. And in that statement, he praised Scalia for his service to his country over the last 3 decades and also his brilliance as a jurist. The flags here, as I mentioned, lowered in Scalia's honor, and likely there will be more tributes coming in Washington over the next few days. We also have heard from President Obama and from Vice President Joe Biden and from former President George H.W. Bush, who was the vice president under Ronald Reagan when Scalia took the bench in 1986. He sent his condolences to the Scalia family.
And Karen, one more question before we let you go. What happens next in terms of his remaining cases, or the remaining cases that are before this court this term?
Yeah, you know, this term is pretty much in the middle. We're used to getting those high-profile decisions in June, so here we are in February, and the court still has a lot of work to be done. But any decisions that Scalia had already made that were not public, if the vote was not public, then that becomes void. So anything that had not been yet publicized, the vote becomes void. There is a possibility, given the splits that we have seen on this court, we have underscored the importance of a swing vote in many of these cases lately, that you will get some courts decisions that come out from the court that will be a 4-4 split from this court. And what happens in that case is that the Supreme Court will then kick it back to the lower court. That decision will be reaffirmed there in the lower court. There's also a possibility that the court could say, we would like to delay this until we have 9 justices on the bench. And what we've seen tonight politically, it's going to be a while perhaps before we do have 9 justices on the Supreme Court bench once again.
We'll have to wait and see. All right, Karen Kafa, live from Washington, D.C. Thank you, Karen.